Now, Sukanya ji, you've known Rajiv ji for a very long time, and you've known our effort for, I believe, since we started.
Yes.
And you've been coming here to the foundation uh, over all these years, and have been a great support to what we do. So, Sukanya ji, I'd like to ask you, how far do you think we've come? I mean, it's been a very quick tour that we've had, and you've had a look at a few collections. We also have some paperwork available to distribute on how we are spending our funds. What has been your experience of Geo and AHF over these years?
So having known Raji for now almost, I don't know, 40 years, I don't know how many years, many years.
Geo's logo is taken from Gandhiji's handwriting. It has been reconfigured.
So when we are talking of working with our hands, working with hands today even more than ever before brings us close to the earth. One of the first things he did in South Africa was he learned the trade of making chappals, shoes. Right. After that he only wore chappals and shoes made by himself. And everyone who lived in his ashrams was taught that. He made his own cloth. So that is, of course, it was an extreme example. But we are talking of using our hands in such a way that it brings us close to who we are as human beings. We are sentient beings. We are living organisms who live on this planet. We have to be in touch with the planet. So the other fundamental principle in his life was, how does man live with nature? In today's parlance, you will all call him a green activist. You would call him a proponent of sustainable development. In his time, there was no such word, there was no such concept. Nobody had even knew what the environment or pollution. Those words were not in common usage. So he had a vision called Sarvodaya. Satyagraha was non-violence, searching for truth with love. For humanity included Satyagraha. And Sarvodaya means Sarva Uday, Sarvodaya, a renaissance of mankind, of humankind, where people learn to live with each other, with other forms of life, with nature, in harmony, without exploitation. So dignity of labor, this concept of living with nature, the concept of living with each other in peace and harmony are all combined in his teachings. And he tried to implement it in the best way possible, according to his times, in his ashrams, in the way he lived. Of course, when he came back to India in 1950, all of this he had tried to implement already in South Africa. So when he came to India, what new things he brought to the entire baggage was khadi, hand spinning. Hand spinning was not there in South Africa. Hand spinning is something he learned and understood, and he realized the importance of hand spinning as an emblem for self-reliance. In South Africa, he didn't. But everything else, his entire concept of his world was already established in South Africa. So we must remember that at a very young age he had decided on what the future of the world should be, and how almost that this is the only way forward for the planet to survive.
Sukandaji, Gandhiji spoke of Nai Talim,
Yes.
Bunyadi Shiksha. I passed out of a boarding school.
Which school did you go to?
I went to St. George's in Missouri. And when I came out of school, and even in college, when only once I came here, I understood what these concepts meant. I didn't understand, but got introduction to what, and still I'm exploring more and more daily. And they make so much more sense to what I should have. Should have is a very sad word. Radhivji often says that. But what I should have, sadly, learnt in school at a very, very young and a formidable age, in terms of aptitudes, in terms of life skills. And how do you think is the state of what we should be learning in our schools vis-a-vis Nayi Taaleem, Bunyadi Shiksha, and there are some models coming up with the alternate learning systems and all that. How do you think students should try and engage with these concepts?
With the concepts like what we talked about just now, right?
Jian.
However, their reality is what? Their reality is they have to work hard. There's competition from the minute they're born. There's competition for everything. From the minute there's competition for space, for air, for health, for hospitals, for schools, for, you just non-stop. They have to compete with each other. They have to go into college, and after college they have to go to find work. It's, the saying, even saying it is stressful. So imagine what their lives are like. So for me to say, forget about all this, they will be very happy. Their parents will file a PIL against us. But so the thing is that even if they can have once in a while an interaction to a world which is a little different to the world that they have to live in, they have no choice, is important. The other thing is, which and this is no one's fault, it's just how things have happened, is that, okay, before I say this, is the other group of people who I feel deserve a huge vote of gratitude in our country are the teachers. Because they really work without, they work very long hours and with a lot of responsibility. They are responsible for fashioning young minds. What they do to a 5-year-old, that 5-year-old remembers for the rest of his or her life. He'll never forget it. A kind word or a smile from a teacher at a point when you never know why, from what environment a child has come to school. And how that teacher reacts to that little child, boy or girl, will stay with that child. So what I would say is that let's not give names like Nayi Taaleem and Gandhiji and all. Let's just say on a level of humanity, I would request that all teachers be compassionate and kind. And I think, and all students should have some kind of knowledge, even if they go back home and educate their parents, that look, today we want to do something different. That kind of awareness has to exist. I would also feel, I've been on these committees, so I know it's a very, maybe an impractical solution. History has to be made more interesting.
Yeah.
History, history books, history should be taught correctly, factually. The textbooks have to be interesting. And history should just be made interesting as a subject. It should not just be learning by rote, on this day this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, first war of independence, second war of independence, this happened. And you have to just repeat that.
But it's sadly constantly going political review, more than ever. But anyways, we won't go into that.
No, it's not necessarily the political aspect I'm talking about. I'm just saying that subjects should be made interesting.
Right.
And that is, it is an institutional thing, it is a larger story.
Right.
It cannot be the responsibility of one teacher in one classroom, it has to be, or one school.
Right.
I think the whole focus should be on making students think for themselves. This is what I'm trying to say.
Factually correct what you're emphasizing on?
No, I'm not emphasizing. It's just a remark I made. I'm not saying it for anything. I'm not saying that what is taught is wrong. it has to be interesting but factually correct.
For that matter, all subjects. She's saying all subjects should be taught in an interesting manner which engage.
Applicable, that growth of a child, right?
Sorry?
What is practically, bring that growth in a child.
Yes.
This is zest of every subject.
Yes.
Can bring about a growth and not, it just remains as a page or a sheet or just a knowledge.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yes.
So, I will not take more time of Sukanya ji. We'll just open this interaction for a few questions from teachers, students, designers, young professionals, and after 3 questions we will close it. So, anybody?
Like mainly Gandhiji's motto was like to do self-work, about working, about making, being self-sufficient. But like in this urban life, where it's the main motto is like the division of labor. How can we like do something to connect to nature, connect to these skilled artisans, or seeing anything other than our urban life?
Well, again, it's something I can't provide an answer to that, because you have to live your life the way it is structured, right? You can't. But what I said earlier, even one excursion or one outing like this is going to be helpful to you. I'm not saying that you have to do something dramatically different on a daily basis. I'd
just like to, but we are having something dramatically different on daily basis, so please come daily and bring your friends daily.
Yes, if you can, that's fantastic. But when I say something interesting or make something interesting, do something yourselves. Do something, even if you like, for example, I don't know, the TV has taken over so much of our time. I'm not saying the TV is wrong, but it has taken up the time of, say, knitting or stitching or crocheting or embroidery. So, like the Sujni work is embroidery. Embroidery doesn't have to be something which is non-creative. I'm just giving it. Again, it's an idea. I'm not saying that, I'm not giving a diktat.
We do have life skill classes when these can be,
Yes.
very basic things can
Yes.
be taught.
I'm not being critical of schools and teachers,
Absolutely
please.
not.
Yes.
Anybody else? Anything from the designers? Okay, I have, on behalf of the designers, I'll ask a question. The Geo project is a design-led project. It is looking at livelihood generation and poverty elimination, but it is design-led, led by designers and unique innovation. So, I want to ask how sometimes the exploration of design or design excellence can be contrary to, let's say, doing something which has not reached excellence but can at the moment provide livelihood to more people than a very highly intensely designed product would provide. How would you see, I spoke to Rajiv once and I asked him, in context of Gandhi theory, what is the importance of design or aesthetics? He said very. And I said, what about excellence in design? He says that one cannot say. So I wanted to bring that up because we are talking a lot about design all the things. And this is something I thought I'd evoke for the benefit of my design.
Yeah, and like design intervention, like what level is it when you study it? And like the traditional things, just because like how the aesthetics are changing.
Vis-a-vis livelihood generation.
Yeah.
So let me say one thing. This Peti Charkha.
Yeah.
I'm sure all of you know this, right? This was a design innovation in the early 1920s. This didn't exist before that. So I don't know if I'm sure you know that. This was designed by, if I'm not mistaken, I will not say it because I'm not sure of it. But from a disciple of Mahatma Gandhi in one of his ashrams. So there are various types of charkhas. Every state, every district in the country has its own traditional charkha, like traditional matka, traditional everything, jhadu, right? There was a traditional. So for the benefit of Gandhiji, who was traveling all the time, and the struggle for the freedom movement, this was developed. So this is a design innovation. Right? It has become part of our narrative now in our country. But in the 20s, it was an absolutely revolutionary design innovation.